All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to crack open the code and really get a look at how software works from the inside out. We're talking about something called white box testing. You know, it's the question every developer and engineer has to ask. An app might look totally fine on the surface, right? But in a world that pretty much runs on code, just looking fine doesn't cut it. How can we be absolutely sure that every little decision, every logical twist and turn inside the code is working exactly the way it's supposed to? Well, the answer is we've got to look under the hood. Seriously, think about it like a car. You can test if a car works by just taking it for a drive, sure. But a real mechanic, they're going to pop the hood, check the engine, the wiring, all the bits and pieces inside. And that is exactly the idea behind white box testing. So here's the more formal definition for you. It's a testing method where the person doing the testing has the keys to the kingdom. They can see all the source code. They're not just looking at the final product, they're actually examining the blueprint to check the flow of data and squash bugs before a user ever even sees them. Okay, enough theory. Let's make this real. The best way to understand this stuff is to look at a concrete example. So we're going to use this one little piece of code as our guide for the rest of this explainer. So, meet our little patient for today. It's a super simple function written in Python called checkNumber, and its job is really straightforward. You give it a number, n, and it spits back whether that number is positive, 0, or negative. Simple, right? But perfect for putting under the microscope. Now for the fun part. We're going to crack this code wide open and trace every single possible journey that our number can take once it goes inside. This, right here, is the absolute heart of white box testing, understanding and checking all those internal routes. If you look at our function, you can see it really has 3 different ways it can go, 3 different outcomes. Think of them like 3 doors. If the number is bigger than 0, it goes through the positive door. If it's exactly 0, it takes the 0 door. And for anything else, well, it's heading straight for that negative door. Any number you put in is only ever going to take one of these paths. So to test this thing properly, we have to design specific tests to make sure we open every single one of those doors. For that positive path, we could use a number like 5. For the 0 path, it has to be 0, obviously. And for the negative path, something like -3 will do the trick. Boom. With just those 3 tests, we've made sure we've walked down every single road inside our function. You know, you can actually draw this out kind of like a map for the code's brain. A flowchart makes it super clear. You start, then you hit the first question, is the number greater than 0? Depending on the answer, you might hit the second question, is the number equal to 0? Following this map shows you every decision point that guides the input to its final output. It's basically a blueprint of the code's thinking process. Okay, great, we ran our tests. But that brings up a really important question. Was that enough? How do we know we were actually thorough? How do we grade ourselves? Well, this is where a concept called coverage comes into play. And this quote says it all. Coverage metrics are basically our report card. They give us a real number that tells us just how much of the source code our tests actually ran through. It shows us what we tested and, maybe more importantly, what we might have missed. So let's look at the big ones. First, there's statement coverage. This is the most basic. Did we run every single line of code at least once? Then you've got branch coverage, which is a step up. It asks, for every if statement, did we test both the true and the false options? And finally, the most rigorous one is path coverage. This asks if we tested every single possible route from start to finish. Now, for our simple little example, our 3 tests actually scored a perfect 100% on all of these. So we've been way down in the details of one tiny little function. Now it's time to zoom all the way out and talk about why any of this matters in the real world. What's the big picture here? This slide just nails the difference between the 2 main ways of thinking about testing. You've got black box testing, which doesn't care about what's inside. It just asks, if I do this, do I get the right result? It's like asking, does the car drive? But white box testing, like we've seen, is totally different. It asks, how does the engine actually work? It's all about the process, not just the final result. And that's the bottom line. If you remember one thing, it's this. White box testing is all about validating the internal logic. We're not just crossing our fingers and hoping the code works. We are systematically proving that the engine inside is built correctly. This is how you find those sneaky hidden bugs, the flawed logic, and even security vulnerabilities that other kinds of testing would just completely miss. So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. The next time you're using your favorite app, just think for a second about the millions of logic paths firing off under the surface. What kind of hidden flaws, or even amazing efficiencies, could this under-the-hood kind of testing find in there? It's a pretty powerful way to think about the quality of the digital world we live in every single day.